During the course of automotive history, especially modern automotive history, few cars have been more iconic than the BMW Mini. It is part of an exclusive club which is joined by the likes of the Ford Mustang, for instance, the Citroën 2CV, the Fiat 500 and the Volkswagen Beetle, of course. All of those have become icons. All are instantly recognisable to most people around the world, even people that aren't into cars. And all of them, with the exception of the Citroën 2CV as yet, have spawned retro design recreations. The BMW Mini itself was in production from 1959 until mid-2000. It was barely unchanged during that time. It never had a 5-speed gearbox, for example. It couldn't be fitted. The engine oil and the gear oil shared the same sump. Rover Group, as it became by the late 1980s, had been looking to spawn a Mini successor for some time. You know, even from the early 1970s, the Mini 9X, which was also designed by Alec Zagonis, had been thrown out, and a number of different ideas for Mini successors never really became Mini successors. The most famous, of course, was perhaps the Ado 88, which became the Mini Metro. That debuted in October 1980, and it was supposed to replace the Mini, but it never did. Then in 1993, Rover began its R50 project, and it was looking to replace the, by that time, very aged Mini once and for all. BMW had taken control of Rover shortly beforehand, and while it initially left Rover to its own devices with the R50 project, the infighting within Rover was just so great that, as with the Rover 75, BMW eventually took custody of the R50 once and for all. It had had very different ideas to Rover as to what the new Mini should become, and BMW wanted something that was larger. It showed off its ACV30 prototype as a reimagined Mini in 1997, and in late 2000 it had prepared its final Mini mock-up, and that was designed by Frank Stevenson, an American. The R50 itself was launched in Europe in July 2001. The United States version was shown at the North American International Auto Show in January 2001. Didn't come to dealerships until late April of 2002. And I actually have a very early example. Mine was built in August that year, and it's in my collection. The R50 did exceptionally well, and it spawned a convertible version. BMW had bigger plans, and in July 2006 it launched this, its successor, the R56. It looks almost identical, but it doesn't share anything with the R50. I'm Darren Walker, and this is Auto Atlantica. Now, BMW really took liberties with the entire Mini ethos with the R56, and this stemmed a variety of different models based around it, including the Clubman, which this time was a station wagon. There was the Club Van, which was a very limited run commercial vehicle version. Only 53 of those came to the US. There was a convertible again. There was also a new coupe, which was a two-seater with a lowered roofline and a much more raked windscreen. And there was a roadster based on that coupe as well. At that point as well, the Countryman, which was essentially the same mechanicals off that platform, but larger. And it offered all-wheel drive, and it's sort of mini SUV type thing. And then the Paceman, which was a three-door coupe style version of that car. I bought this particular R56 last October. I'd just started a new job, and this new job involves several days actually in the office. And it's only about 30 miles, but even so, I wanted something that was a darn sight more economical than my Ram V8 pickup truck in order to go to the office with. And I wanted something that was going to be fun. You know, my initial thoughts were perhaps just getting something uber reliable like a Toyota Corolla, but those thoughts quickly dissipated after a few minutes. I've had this car now for 6 months, and I've covered during that time just over 2,000 miles. This car is a 2013 now. In late 2012, the N12 and N16 engines were replaced by the N14 and N18 engines, and they addressed a number of criticisms with the earlier cars, notably the incredibly short lifespan of the timing chains and the fact that the cooling systems went out at the drop of a hat. This particular car started out at a base price of $19,700. The engine came from France, as we know. It was built in Oxford. The transmission is an Aisin transmission, I believe. If I got that wrong, I'll put it up on the screen, but that was sourced in Japan. But this just goes to show you the international nature of cars these days. 5% US Canadian parts content. 25% of the parts content comes from Germany and another 20% from the United Kingdom. So the base price, $19,700. The British Racing Green 2 paintwork was an extra $500. The carbon black leatherette seats, which is what these are, which are very nice and comfortable, were included. This one has the cold weather package, as does my R50 back in the garage. That was $750. Now included in that are the power folding mirrors, the heated mirrors with washer jets, and heated front seats, no heated steering wheel. This also has the premium package 2, which at $1,250 gives you the dual pane panoramic sunroof and automatic climate control, as well as opposed to manual air conditioning. This one has the Steptronic automatic transmission, and it's got it's like a Tiptronic on it as well, but there's no paddle shifters. If you want to operate it manually, you just have to use the floor lever. Now my R50 is a manual, but for work this is a much more palatable when you're sitting in traffic. It also came with 15-inch alloy wheels. The sport seats, which are extra $250. Comes with Bluetooth and a USB iPod adapter, all-season tyres, and then the destination charge, for a total on this particular car of $24,400. Now this car does not have those original 15-inch silver alloys on it. It's got black anodized 16-inch, and they've been put on by the previous owner. There was only one owner prior to me. But it doesn't ride like a Mini Cooper either. It rides much more like a John Cooper Works car. So I think that they've also played around with the suspension, because it is very hard. This, being from 2013, has one of these fobby type keys that you plug in and then you can start it. Now, as with the R50, you get this very traditional looking layout. The top of the dashboard is almost identical, the mirrors are almost identical, they're not quite the same. It's got the pod mounted tachometer and the centre mounted speedo. The speedo was much larger, and it also incorporated the radio display. This one also has the automatic climate control, so you've got controls here for the fan and the temperature as well, AC. This one's got heated seats, nice little rocker buttons here for the windows and the central lock-in, and then there's more up here for the sunroof, etc. as well. This one also has ambient lighting, and you can change it with a multitude of different colours up here using one of these toggle switches. So all in all, it's an attractive little package, is this, and I thought this would be ideal for work, and it has been so far. This automatic is a much more reliable unit than the CVT that was put into the original R50. you won't really have any problems with this automatic. And the manuals, both on the R50 and the R56, are both superb as well. You're not going to have any problems with those. With this particular car, the biggest problems that you're going to find with the Prince engine are the cooling system, and although it's more reliable than the earlier N12, on this N14 it still uses a plastic all-in-one thermostat housing. There is no separate thermostat, and that is liable to crack with the extremes in temperature after a while. One of the problems I had was I was noticing that the coolant level was dropping slightly, so I took it in to have it pressure tested, and it's fine. There's no leaks, nothing. We've come to the conclusion that the expansion tank cap has probably got a bit of a sneeze to it, so I'm going to replace it. I'm averaging about 33 to the gallon, which is down a bit from the 36 that I had before winter, but we've had a very long winter, and that has definitely eaten into my average fuel consumption quite a bit. The feel of the car is superb, the quality of the materials is superb as well, and that's the same on my R50. My R50, the plastics are so good in it that it looks like brand new. There's a slight tear on this driver's seat, and that's it. It's just a bit of stitching that's come away, and we can get that repaired, no problem. The only other issue that I've had with this car since I've had it is that the motor has died in the rear wiper. I do have another one that's arrived, a replacement. It's a used one, but it's OE. So you can get them for $30–35 all day long, so it's just worth replacing it with one of those. It does hunt a little bit, this gearbox, especially when you've got it in sport mode, because what the sport mode does, it actually makes quite a bit of difference. It really does drop the amount of time between changes, especially first to second to third. And if you've got it in sport mode and you are going up a hill, it will hunt between second and third all the time. But also on this trip computer setting on here that I've got it on instead of the radio display and instead of the clock, it tells you that outdoor temperature. It's got your range here as well, your average speed, and then your average fuel consumption. And I put this on all the time. It doesn't default to it. You have to keep setting this when you turn on the ignition. But what I preferred about the original Mini when I say original Mini, I mean the R50, is that, you know, it had an array of needles, traditional needles. This doesn't. You know, again, when this car was built, it was becoming quite de rigueur among manufacturers to replace the petrol tank needles with this kind of LED sort of blob kind of affair, which I really dislike. And the temperature gauge went away completely, which isn't good when you've got an engine which is renowned for overheating. You know, this is supposed to be a sporty car, and the fact that BMW decided to get rid of half of the car's gauges as a traditional kind of needle form, I thought was utterly bloody bonkers. I like to take a beaker of coffee with me in the morning, and it's so tall that it obscures both the heated seat button and this toggle switch for the window, which is annoying. But again, it's not the end of the world. I like the little things like the folding mirrors, of course, because if we have a hailstorm, I can automatically fold those in. Again, it's not a big deal, but it's just a nice little perk. This car handles so well, and with those larger diameter wheels on, and the stiffer suspension, it really does provide some thrills, despite the fact that this car has less than 130 horsepower. I know that the R50 had 115, but I think this has about 126, thereabouts. And that's plenty enough to have fun with. And really, when you are on those twisties and on uneven camber, the gearbox really comes into its own as an automatic, I think. Like I say, it only really starts hunting between second and third in sport mode when you're going uphill. It feels much more lethargic without the sport mode on, and there's really no difference either, I'm finding, to fuel consumption. So I tend to keep the sport mode on all the time. As I've said, despite the fact that this looks the same as the R50, it is actually completely different, and it's slightly wider, it's slightly lower as well, and it's slightly longer. But the visibility is just like the R50. You know, it's just essentially a box with glass in it. Like the R56 as well, in keeping with the R50, with the traditional looks of the car. A lot of this harks back right back to the original BMC Mini, Austin Mini, Morris Mini, especially these round vents. BMW did a superb job of updating this car into a size that was much more usable. I will talk about the R50 in more length in a different video, but you know, Rover themselves wanted, with their spiritual concepts, wanted a mid-engined tiny city car, which the general public didn't like when it was previewed. They liked the BMW's idea of something a little bit bigger, a bit more usable and sportier, which is what a Mini Cooper should be. That was the whole point of the Cooper in the first place. You know, a lot of purists just panned BMW because the R50 was that much larger, but the world was that much larger. Everybody in it was that much larger by the 21st century as well, and people had more crap to ferry around in their cars as well, so it made more sense. And now the R50 is 25 years old, it's come into its own now as a collectible, and I think that the R56 will do the same. I'm in several groups for all modern minis on Facebook, and it's a very tight-knit community. So that's it. That's the full introduction video to my 2013 R56 Mini Cooper. I'm really enjoying it. You know, I've put a few little sort of what I consider improvements. I've got a European license plate holder there, which I will eventually put a plate into, because I can do that here. Ohio doesn't require a plate, and that's just a bit of fun. And also these mirror caps, the body colour, which they are at the moment, I have actually bought some chrome mirror caps from another R56. In fact, I got the entire mirrors plus the caps from an R56 that was in a local breaker's yard, and I think once they're on, those chrome caps will really set off the other chrome bits and pieces on the car as well. So that's basically all that's going on with the car right now. No real major issues at all. One or two things that we've had to check, and you know, the biggest thing I think was probably the rear wiper motor, which I've got to put the new one on. And you consider that this is a 12-year-old car after all, it's not too bad. So all in all, I'm very pleased with it so far. This one had done about 68,000 miles when I got it, but when you consider it's now done 70,000 miles, I think it was a pretty good bang for the buck, especially with its equipment level. I had a number of options in terms of a car that I could use for work, so I decided to go somewhat left field and get a small car that was fun to drive, that I could really have a hoot with on those boring commutes. And that's why I landed myself this Mini Cooper. I'm Darren Walker, and this is Auto Atlantica.